What's up, Instagram? My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline. And this is the We Are Just Dating page. Some of y'all know because y'all been rocking with us for a few weeks. But today is Tuesday, which means it's question of the day. A lot of y'all favorite topic, favorite day. So we're excited. We're going to jump right into it. If you don't know, though, let me slow down. For those who don't know, question of the day is where we answer your question that you asked us in the bio that we have in our page above. So if you have a question, it's anonymous. You can go in there. We won't know who asked it, and we would love to answer your question. So without further ado, let's get into it.
All right, this week's question. What do you do if you know you are ready to get married? Been ready to get married.
Being ready.
But you're not sure if your partner, or in her case, her boyfriend's timeline for marriage. He's expressed that he does in fact plan to marry you, but he hasn't expressed a timeline. And yes, I have told him how I feel, but I don't want to sound too pushy. What do you think, babe?
That's a good question. Thank you, whoever asked that question. I really wish we could talk. Like there's some times where I wish I could get a little more details because that would change the way I answer the question because context does matter.
Absolutely.
But I'll try to answer this to the best of my ability. So here's what I'll say. I'll say it really does matter the context. But if you've been dating for just 2 months and you've been really wanting to get married, you've been ready and you told him that.
If you're a little older, maybe.
Yeah, give him a little grace. Like, it's okay if he doesn't know, oh, I don't know when I want to get married this time next year, right? Like, that's okay if y'all just started dating. Like, just have fun, get to know each other. But if y'all been dating for longer than, like, 6 months, there needs to be some type of plan. Like, hey, where are we going? I know you don't know the date and the venue you want to get married at, but, hey, like, do you see us getting engaged this time next year? And here's why I say that. Because the Bible says, where there's a lack of vision, the people perish.
Yeah.
And we can apply that to your relationship. Where there's a lack of vision, your relationship will perish, which means die. And obviously, you're not going to die, but the relationship may die. The romance may die. The friendship may die.
You start to get very frustrated and confused.
The principle still stands. Something in your relationship is going to die because there's a lot of people that don't have vision in their relationship, but they're still dating or married or whatever. But the romance, the friendship, the vision is dead. And that's not a relationship you want to be a part of. So I would sit down and be very clear and have a real conversation of, hey, what is your vision? And Pauline, I think you're going to go into a little bit more, so I won't spoil what you're going to say. But yeah, that's what I would say. If y'all just started dating, just have fun, get to know each other. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. But if y'all been dating for longer than 6 months and there's no plan, no clarity, that's not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think hopefully there's some guys out there listening because this can be a point of frustration for a lot of women where if your boyfriend isn't maybe used to being a leader, that can be very frustrating for women. Leadership is actually a top need for women in every relationship or a romantic relationship. And that's what it sounds like you need from your boyfriend is some leadership. And vision really is the main responsibility of a leader. So it sounds like that's what she needs. But my response to this would be if you don't know, because I think she said if you're not sure what your partner's timeline is, you need to ask in a clear way. A lot of times as women we'll kind of like throw things out there and like kind of see how the guy responds, like, oh, look at this venue, this would be nice, or oh, look, they got married, and you're like,
he's
kinda,
like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you're kind of like DM him like, oh, look, my friend just got married or she's got engaged, and then he's like, what is that? Are you trying to drop hints?
Okay.
Crickets. But you need to ask outright, maybe when you guys are on a date, or maybe you're having a phone call, like, hey, I've been thinking, I really like where things are going with us. It would be great if we could discuss marriage. Like, what time do you think you would want to get married? And then he might tell you like, yo, I don't see me getting married until I make a certain amount of money or until I reach this goal or that goal. Maybe he'll say like, I would love to be married this time next year, and we're talking ideal state, right? We're not talking about you're writing it in stone or anything like that. So give him grace. Like he's allowed to change his mind because he's still getting to know you.
Give me some type of game plan. Like every coach goes into a football or basketball game with a game plan,
right.
But once they see how things line up in the actual game, things may change.
Yeah,
but at least they got some plan going in.
Right, absolutely, and that's really what we're looking for. And you can give that disclaimer as a woman, like, hey, I'm not gonna hold this to you, because a lot of times guys feel like if I tell her I want to propose in 6 months and something happens where I'm not able to do it, like she's gonna be mad at me, or I'm gonna disappoint her, and I don't want to break her heart. So tell him, like, give me, you know, some type of guideline or timeline, because 6 months and 6 years are a big difference. So you do need to know, because if you guys are not on the same timeline, it's going to make your relationship extremely frustrating. But also for you ladies out there who, you know, you want to have this conversation with your boyfriend, and maybe he's told you, I don't really want to talk about marriage right now, and you're more like, hey, I really want to get married to him. If he's not being straight with you, if you've asked him clearly, like, hey, you know, I want to have this conversation, and like I said, give him grace, allow him to pray about it, allow him to seek wise counsel, to seek the Lord about it, and say, hey, you know, maybe this is the first time I've sprung this on you, but, you know, in 2 weeks or the end of the month, do you think that we could touch on this in an intentional conversation? So
I like how you stole my notes for later in the show. I like how
later in the show.
You stole my notes.
But yeah, because sometimes girls can come in hot with it, and it puts a lot of pressure on your guy. I know you said you don't want to be pushy, but also it's not. Women are designed to challenge men, so there's nothing wrong with you asking questions. I think it would be pushy if he told you, hey, I don't want to get married until 2025, and you're constantly trying to change his mind. Accept what he has to say, believe him as a man of his word, and make your decisions according to that. But yeah, I think that that's really, really important. You know, not trying to change your guy's mind if he has given you some type of answer. But if he hasn't, give him time to do that. Because we also want to remember that the right person at the wrong time is the wrong person. So if he gives you a timeline, and also, ladies, I want to tell you, you know, let him tell you his timeline first as the leader. And you might know in your mind, hey, I want to get married next year. And he may come back to you and say, hey, I prayed about it. I talked to my mentors or whatever. I've spoken to the Lord, and I want to get married in 4 years. And this is why. Maybe he's in medical school. Maybe he still lives with his parents. Maybe he's trying to get out of debt. I don't know. It could be a whole list of things. Maybe he just got out of a relationship. I don't know. There could be a lot of things that he's trying to work through, and you need to respect that, even if you don't agree with it. But if you say, I'm not going to be waiting around for nobody for 4 years, in yourself, and you're like, that timeline is way off than mine, then that's, I think, a big red flag that maybe you guys aren't moving at the same pace. And even though he may be great and you guys have had a good time together, the right person at the wrong time is the wrong person.
Yeah, and I'll say this for all the fellas, like, let's make sure that we are updating our women on everything that we want to talk about.
It's easier when you're proactive.
Yeah, like, tell her, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is how I'm feeling, and update her as your mind is changing. We want to be gracious in how we are stewarding their heart, because at the end of the day, we're stewarding their heart in this season of how they're in our life. Like, hey, I don't know if we're going to get married, but I do know we're together right now, and God's going to hold me accountable for how I treated you. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to make sure I'm stewarding your heart well. I'm not leading you on.
Yeah, please don't waste anybody's time.
Yeah. So let's get into some practical tips.
Yeah.
Because we love to talk about practical tips of how what we're saying is applying to your life and how you can actually apply it. I'll say this. I would go to your guy, and Pauline kind of said this, but I would, as the girlfriend, go to your guy, say, hey, you already know, because you said in your question that he already knows how you feel. Be like, hey, you know how I feel. You know I would like to get married at whatever your timeline is. He knows exactly when that is. You would know I'm ready. And I need from you some clarity and some vision, because I respect you. I don't want to waste your time if we're not on the same page about where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, hey, can you take 2 weeks, pray about it, like Pauline said, talk to some mentors, and really seek God and say, hey, what is the guideline? What's the timeline for what we're trying to do? Do I see myself getting engaged next year? Do I see myself getting engaged this summer? What is the timeline? So that he can come back to you with some type of clarity. And if he comes back in 2 weeks and has nothing, that's a red flag. And at that point, you probably should consider ending it. Okay. And that sounds harsh, that sounds tough, but at the end of the day, you're stewarding your own life.
Right.
And you don't want to waste your time with someone who isn't valuing yours. Right? And if they didn't value you by going out and seeking any type of counsel, any clarity, then they clearly don't care that much about the relationship.
It seriously enough. Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, those are all really good tips. I already mentioned earlier for girls, my practical tip is your first time, having this conversation, allow the guy to lead. This is an opportunity for you to see his leadership skills. So say, hey, you know, I would love for us to talk about marriage. See, you know, what he says. See, like, hey, we can talk about it in a few weeks if you want to pray about it. But you may know in your heart what your answer is. But don't say, I want to get married in 6 months. Are you down with that? Because he may feel pressure, like, oh man, I have to say yes or she's going to break up with me. Or he may feel kind of, you know, pressure to meet whatever your timeline is. But you want to hear his own personal heart. Because what we don't want to do is drag anybody down the aisle. We don't want to do that. Because when you force people to get married, you have to force them to stay married, girl. And that is not the type of situation you want to be in. So allow him to tell you what his heart is. See his leadership in that area. And then you make your own decision according to, you know, what he tells you. But yeah, please don't give ultimatums. If y'all been together 5, 6, 7 years, you need to have this conversation a lot quicker. Should have been had the conversation, to be honest. And if you, a practical tip for you guys who are not in a dating relationship right now, know what your timeline is up front. You should know before, honestly, in an ideal situation, before you go on a date with anybody, you should know, I would love to be married in a year or 2 years. I don't know who I'm going to be married to.
And that's with an open hand, because God could say, nah.
He may change
so we want to hold everything with an open hand, but...
Absolutely. But you should know kind of like where you are right now. Like, I would love to be married in a year, in 2 years, in 4 years, whatever you are. Obviously, the younger you are, you're going to probably have a longer timeline. The older you are, you're going to have a shorter timeline. There's a lot of different things that would change that, but you should know what you want. Just so you guys don't enter college and say, oh, well, maybe I'll be here for 8 years. No.
Well, some people will be there for
and that's the problem. You pay a price for that. You will pay a price if you linger and dilly-dally in dating as well.
That's good. We can end it right there.
Yes.
You're going to pay a price if you let things linger with no clarity. Because remember, where there's a lack of vision, the people will perish, and so will your relationship. And we don't want that for you. So don't be afraid to ask your boyfriend this type of question, because it really will help you get clarity and decide, like, hey, remember what we said before, dating is a process where we're evaluating each other. So you're evaluating, is this someone I want to be with? Is this someone that can lead me? And there's nothing wrong with that. So don't feel bad. And we love y'all, man. This has been Question of the Day.
Yes, this was fun. Thank you guys for submitting.
Every Tuesday, come back here. We're going to be here. We hope you'll be here. And we'll see y'all next Tuesday.